Thank you, the middle part of the audience. Thank you. Oh, and these people over here, thank you all so much. Yay! Hi, everybody. So excited to be here. Welcome to Game 6 of the World. Welcome to a Minneapolis Improvised Mayoral Forum, the second quadrennial. I had to practice saying that a lot. So welcome to the Theater of Public Policy's second quadrennial Minneapolis Improvised Mayoral Forum. We are so excited that you all are here. Halloween, no less. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Yay! What the heck are we doing here? As I said at the top, my name is Tane Danger. I am the host of a thing called the Theater of Public Policy. I like to ask at the start of shows, thank you very much. I like to ask at the start of shows, please applaud if you have not seen the Theater of Public Policy before. You can tell, nobody comes back to shows. So you all are in for a one-time treat. So what do? We talk to some very smart folks on stage, and then we have this team of very talented improvisers that bring everything they say to life through entirely unscripted improv comedy theater. Tonight's a little different because we have not one, but 5 very talented people who are going to be talking to about a whole variety of things. But first, we should introduce you to the cast of the Theater of Public Policy. Please, a round of applause as they run down, and then they're gonna just probably like run across. So it's Heather, Fred, Sammy, Denzel, Kelly, Dr. Jim Robinson, and Brandon Boat is hiding over there. And Dennis Curley on the piano, everybody. All right, so I am super excited about this. This is not a normal thing. I'm pretty sure that this is the only play. Oh, I should say also, very quickly to acknowledge, we are live right now thanks to the Uptake. So hello to everybody who decided to just put us on in between trick-or-treaters. Hi, hello, yay! Don't worry, it's funnier live. You all made a good decision. So we're very excited. I'm pretty sure that this is the only place in the world that does a forum where we talk to the people who might, and one of them likely will, run the city that we all live in, and then bring it to life on stage through improv comedy. This is very unique, and it's very exciting to us, and we're very honored that the 5 candidates joining us tonight all said yes. So with that, I hope that you will join me. We're going to give them each their moment as they come up here, and Dennis is going to play them on. I think he's given some of them at least musical suggestions. We'll see. All 5? Wow. See if you can name that tune as they come on, and it will either help inform your choice or not. With that, let's welcome, I'm trying to see who's first. So it looks like first in line there, Representative Raymond Dean. Big round of applause as he comes on down. Yay! Yay. You can, wherever you want. This is not, I am not the League of Women Voters. You can sit wherever you want. It's totally up to you. Good. All right, next up, please, a round of applause. It looks like next up, incumbent Mayor Betsy Hodges. Oh, that's good. That's good. Exactly, yes. An appropriate woo for having the appropriate attire for October 31st here. Did you even know it was October 31st when you put this on? No, it's a Tuesday outfit. So, next up, please, a round of applause, the former head of the Minneapolis NAACP and former professor of law at St. Thomas University. Big round of applause, Nakima Levy-Pounds. Welcome on down. Keep it going for Minneapolis Ward 3 Council member, Jacob Fry. Oh, look, and he's doing like he's got the running thing going. I love it. Oh. And then I feel bad, like so you have to do an extra round of applause because he is the only one who now doesn't get to choose his seat. He's just left over. So please, a big round of applause. Tom Hulk, everybody. fine. You ask the questions, I'll answer. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm very excited. There's actually now 6 microphones amongst you, so one of you can have 2. So, I don't know if anybody else has seen any other forums already. Anybody seen any other forums already? So yes, some people have done their homework. Some people are basing their entire vote on tonight. No pressure. But I've gotten to watch a lot of these, and I know you all are very adept already at doing opening statements and whatnot, and so I wanted to skip that, and let's just skip ahead. Let's skip ahead to...
Thank you.
Yes. Instead of an opening statement, what I was hoping you would do is come up and give us a quick speech as though you have already been mayor for 4 years, okay? So or 4 more years. It's now, wait, can I do the math? 18, 19, 20, 21. It's now 2021. You've either completed your 4 years as mayor or your 8th year as mayor. And just tell us, give us the state of Minneapolis now in 2021. We will assume that there are Martians. All right, Mayor Hodges, I'm sorry, you have actually been the only person here who is in our mayoral forum 4 years ago, so you have a little bit of experience, so I am gonna ask you to go first because you're the veteran here. So, Mayor Hodges, 2021, please welcome our audience to the future.
Welcome to 2021, everybody. I'm Mayor Betsy Hodges, now and then. And in the last 4 years, after the indictment of President Trump, and then President Pence, and we won the midterm elections in 2018, and the people rose up and we took the House and the Senate and the White House in 2020. I am now running for my 3rd term as mayor and grateful that the work we have been able to do together as a city has led to more equitable outcomes for people of color, that we are, if we're 15 minutes away, if we were 15 minutes away in 2017 from being majority people of color, in 2021 we're about 5 minutes away from being majority people of color in the city. So we have been spending 4 more years building the city like that is true. There is more prosperity and more growth for everybody, except for Donald Trump. And we have been busily standing with our neighbors through all that turmoil and all the strife that happened around the Trump administration. We as Minneapolis do what we do best, which is come together with our strengths to meet those challenges. So our immigrant neighbors are doing better. Our GLBTQ youth and adults are all doing better, particularly trans youth and adults. We've continued to grow. We are the city that is getting it right in terms of displacement and gentrification. So we have housing policy that is working to create housing throughout the entire city, affordable housing and market rate housing throughout the entire city, not just one neighborhood or another. And the Super Bowl went great. The NCAA Final Four went great. The X Games went great. The WNBA All-Star Game went especially great, because go Lynx. And I'm the most awesome mayor you've ever had.
Yeah, a big round of applause, Betsy Hodges. So now you can see how it's done. So why don't we we'll go next to Jacob Fry, Councilmember Jacob Fry. It's 2021. You've been mayor for 4 years. Please give us a state of the city.
Well, happy Halloween 2021, by the way. My name is Mayor Jacob Fry. I'm running for mayor, believe it again, once again. In other words, I'm not using this spot for a stepping stone. The Vikings have won the Super Bowl. The Twins have won the World Series.
Nobody's believing that one.
The music is playing. People are smiling. And by the way, do I get the futuristic music, or is that just the last one? Okay.
We're already in the future.
So we're already in the future.
Yeah.
And Minneapolis is a place where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, regardless of who you are, who your parents are, what side of the tracks you grew up on. Minneapolis is a place where people can afford to live in a safe and thriving neighborhood, where we aren't segregated based on race and socioeconomic background and age. We actually have diverse neighborhoods. We have affordable housing in middle and upper income areas. We don't have homelessness anymore. While it might happen on a short-term basis, people are able to find a place that they can afford that is deeply low income, that then allows them to grab that next rung on the ladder and pull themselves out. Believe it or not, we have police that actually engage with the community. You know that your officer walking down Broadway here on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. is Jenny. You know Jenny. You know her by name. We live in a city where we respect one another, where we appreciate one another, where we are environmentally sustainable for the long haul. And because, as Mayor Hodges pointed out, Donald Trump has been indicted, we now have re-signed up for the Paris agreements as a country, and we have a city and a state and a nation that's actually moving forward towards peace and environmental sustainability.
Big round of applause. Jacob Fry, everybody. Should we do? Generally, I'm going to try and avoid the going down the line thing, but this seems like an appropriate time maybe to do that, because we got to give each person a chance to be running for mayor in 2021. So, 2021, Nakima Levy-Pounds, please tell us, how is the city of Minneapolis?
The city of Minneapolis is on the path of becoming a national leader in equity and justice and focusing on the needs of the people. 4 years ago, when we started out, they said it couldn't be done. They claimed that I wasn't a viable candidate, despite having a law degree and having taught law for 14 years, and having been on the front lines consistently fighting for racial justice and equity. The awesome thing about all of this is that you, as the community, believed in me. You got to the point where you were tired of hearing empty promises from elected officials, and you decided that enough was enough. So you elected a leader who said that she would lead the charge to help transform the issues that were happening in our community. And because of your commitment, we were able to begin to shift the paradigm to make Minneapolis a place where the people have a voice and where we focused on people over profits. And developers no longer had control over the things that were happening in the city. Big business no longer had control over the things that were happening in the city. The establishment no longer had control of the things that were happening in the city. I believe that during the course of these 4 years, I did what I said that I would do, which was to set out to establish an equity plan across all of the 13 city agencies that I was responsible for. I made sure that we set metrics of what we wanted to accomplish, and we also were accountable to the public by articulating how we use the resources that you placed in our hands, for me as mayor and also for our city council members. And for the first time in a very long time, we focused on the children in our community. Instead of saying that, it wasn't my job because of the city charter, I told you that I would make sure that we paid attention to the issues that were affecting our young people in Minneapolis public schools. I told you that I would make sure that the city rolled up its sleeves and stepped up to the plate, heard the voices of parents, teachers, and students to help shift the paradigm within Minneapolis public schools. We have made some wonderful progress. The rest of the nation is looking to Minneapolis in a very good way. 4 more years of the path that we're on, we know that we will be #1 in equity instead of at the bottom, which is where we were 4 years ago. So I'm excited to work with you all in helping to transform our community.
Big round of applause, Nakima Levy-Pounds. Mr. Tom Hoke of 2021.
Thank you. So you have either just gone online, done the old-fashioned thing, and opened a major newspaper. And it's a double truck. It's 2 pages. And the top of it says, what is going on in Minneapolis? But it's a positive. Because he's going to start talking about what we've done to house everyone in our community. Because we've eradicated homelessness. And everyone who wants an affordable place to live has one. And if they don't have one, they're within 6 months to 12 months of having one. We've grown our economy. So what does that mean? So as you're reading the article, you're seeing that Minneapolis has become a leader. Minneapolis has become a leader in the food industry, the small food industry. And we've created entrepreneurships. And guess what? When we've done that, not only have we engaged the entire state, but we have engaged entrepreneurs who are growing food across the sector. So an example is now, Uptake, Minnesota is growing what we in the urban area need in order to feed the world, because we have a mill district that fails, says the article. And based on that, we are growing food producers throughout the state and the local economy here. So food producers, everyone has a food story, and it knows that here your food story comes to life, because what we've also done is we've attracted venture capital who's interested in supporting these small food entrepreneurs who are now rapidly going national and international, because not only are we the breadbasket of the country, but we become the breadbasket of the world. We're also the leaders in healthcare, medtech. That's what we're doing here. We're the global alley of medtech, and they're good paying jobs for everyone in our community because we're so successful at that. And finally, we have become more vibrant than ever with arts and culture as the backbone of our city. So we have our schools infused with arts and culture. And by the way, Minneapolis Public Schools is now the leader in the nation in terms of attracting and educating students, because every student is getting a full-rounded education. They're graduating on time. Imagine what that could be like. And the schools are infused with arts and culture, because when you come to Minneapolis Public Schools, that's what you get. You get a full arts education along with your academic education, because we knew, and we observed, and we built out of the fact that we know that kids who are exposed to the arts succeed academically. They're all graduating on time, and they're heading off to great careers that are going to serve our economy and themselves.
That's a very flattering article. The paper seems very much in the tank for you at this point. Aren't they? It's only an hour-long show.
Okay, there's more. You have to turn the page to get to the rest of it.
All right, well, I'm going to go to Representative Raymond. Thank you so much. Big round of applause. Tom Hoke. And Representative Raymond Dean.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and I want to thank all of you for coming to the North Side. I'm glad that you've been able to come to the North Side over the past several years and help us with the rebirth of a part of the city that for far too many years have been ignored. You know, it's really exciting to know that North High basketball team, is there something I should know about?
We did sabotage.
Okay. So the Martians are coming.
Yeah.
So we need to prepare for that. But no, in all seriousness, you know, the past few years have been really tough. We've made some progress in some areas that we worked really, really hard. We know that our students are doing better in school, and they're doing better because the families have stable housing. Most of the family members have the stable employment that they really need to sustain their lives. And we're just on the cusp of getting to $15 an hour in Minneapolis. So we still have a lot of work to do on issues. And as I spoke to you 4 years ago, I talked about when we raised the minimum wage at the state of Minnesota from $7.25 to $9.50 an hour, that even though businesses said, well, this is going to kill our business, we're going to have to leave Minnesota, that didn't happen. And we found that actually raising the minimum wage, we haven't seen a mass exodus of businesses as well. So we can do things that are bold. We can continue to do things that are bold, because that's what it's going to take to really transform our city to where they're at, to the place that we all aspire to be. Is it just me?
I don't know. Do you? Yeah, it might be.
It's like I have some static going on. Just
Yeah.
in
Do you?
general.
I have no idea.
Yeah, let me
Sorry.
take off
It's
my
your
coat.
magnetism.
And as many of you joined with me 4 years ago to move our city in a new direction, I'm asking you to continue to stand with me as we continue to move those areas that we still haven't gotten to. We've closed some of our disparity gaps, but some areas we haven't. And that's going to take all of us working to make sure that, we have made it so that Minneapolis is no longer one of the most segregated school districts in the country. We fought to change the way in which individuals are actually able to achieve the things that they want to achieve. And we've done things like addressed issues of mental health that oftentimes has been something that goes far, far too often ignored. We're a great place. We were a great place for addressing issues of addiction. But now, instead of criminalizing those types of things, we're actually treating individuals for the opportunity. So we've changed our criminal justice system. It's exciting to see that. We actually have less cops on the street because there's not the need for addressing issues of public safety because people in our community are doing better. And when we know that people in our community do better, that the need for addressing public safety costs actually go down. So I want to thank you for being a part of joining me 4 years ago, and that I hope you will join me in the next 4 years from now to make the city a much, much better, thriving place for everybody that lives here.
Big round of applause. Raymond Dean, yay! Okay, back to 2017. So, my hope here with the rest of this conversation is that we can have it much more as a conversation. Oh, thank you. Thank you for bringing us back to 2017. Oh, it was so nice in 2021. So I think almost all of you mentioned to some degree affordable housing, and it has seemed to be one of the real touch point issues for this campaign. And and even though there's a lot of folks here maybe who haven't heard some of the things that we've talked about before, I guess I kind of want to cut to the chase and just sort of call the question of like, okay, everybody here wants there to be more affordable housing, wants everybody to be able to live in the city at an affordable rate. How do we actually do that? And what power, how does the mayor make that happen? And at this point, I'm throwing it open to grab one of the microphones that hopefully will work.
I'm happy to go.
Go nuts.
So we do, as a community, want everybody to be able to live. In the city, we want to provide housing for one another at all levels throughout the entire city. So some of the things that I've already done is, yes, investment in affordable housing. If you include what I propose for next year, it's $84 million over these 4 years. But I've also had to innovate to make sure that we're doing it right. In the last 10 years, if you look at Heading Home Hennepin's numbers, yes, we have built 10,000 units of housing, and that's great. We've also lost 11,000 units of affordable housing. So we are losing units faster than we can build them. So I've invested this year, and I propose for next year, investments in a naturally occurring affordable housing strategy. It is much less expensive to create, to keep affordability than it is to build something new. In addition, we've invested those affordable housing dollars, but I've had to innovate how we do it. So now we have a family housing fund that we have been able to build housing for larger families, which is what I heard from the community and from my Cradle to K cabinet was what we needed. And I've proposed for next year a housing stability specialist in the city of Minneapolis to help us deal with gentrification, displacement, these housing issues. Through our comprehensive plan, we're looking at, and I support, inclusionary zoning to create incentives for affordable housing in all development, not just specifically affordable housing developments, and supports for renters. One of the challenges we found out, in spades that we had this year was evictions and the churn of evictions, and how can we support renters and how can we stop a churn of evictions to create more stability for people. And I will always put this plug, transit is one of the best ways to create density and to create affordability.
So I want to get into a whole conversation about transit, but that's a long list of things either happening now or proposals going forward. Is there anybody up here who thinks that one of those is wrong or not good or not enough? Like, I'm trying to actually draw out some of the differences.
Yeah, I think we need to be very clear about the amount of money that we're going to be putting in ultimately. Mayor Hodges is absolutely correct in that we are losing a ton of affordable housing, in fact, at a far faster rate than that which we're putting in. And the reason is that when we give a developer a subsidy to build affordable housing, it comes along with the requirement that it remain affordable for a certain number of years, and usually that's about 15 or 20. But then as soon as that 15 or 20 is up, they can flip it back to market. So we're constantly trying to produce more affordable housing while we're losing that which we have, and as she stated, we're falling behind. And in order to retain the affordable housing, in order to create more affordable housing, in order to create affordable housing at a deeper affordability and throughout the city, yeah, no matter how you break it down, we do need the funding to make that happen. And I believe that the city needs to be stepping up in a substantial way in the face of state and federal governments that are not, to make sure that everybody is able to live in our great city. Right now, the vast majority of the affordable housing that we're building is at what's called 50 and 60% of area median income, which is great. We need more of that housing. We also need housing at 30% of area median income, 20%. Housing so that people who are experiencing homelessness or close to it have that next rung on the ladder from which they can pull themselves out. And we need to be specific about where we're putting it, too. I don't believe in putting all of the affordable housing in one area of the city. I believe that we should have affordable housing in Southwest.
And I want to get to that. I just want to press on the one at the beginning you were saying about we need to be investing more. So just say, if you can, in a sentence or two, what does that mean, more? Can you put some specifics on exactly what that means?
Yes, I can. So I authored the amendment that brought our Affordable Housing Trust Fund to a record level of above $10 million. But it's nothing to brag about, because $10.5 million doesn't anywhere close to come to cutting the mustard to get this job done.
So what does?
So what I'd like to do is create what's called a value capture model, where you're taking the revenues generated from increases in value to certain parcels. You take those revenues, I think we should take probably about 30 to 40% of them, have them in a separate fund that is not competing with some of your classic city issues, so that ultimately you can get this done. In the early years, I think we should be up in the range of 15 to 20 million. In the early years, we can do that. And then, yes, I do believe, especially if we're coordinating with some of these surrounding jurisdictions, which we need to do, we can bring it well beyond that.
So, Raymond Dean, you grabbed a microphone, and I'm wondering if you can, is this a good idea? Is this a good plan?
You know, I mean, yeah, all of them we got to do a lot of different things. We can't just do one or two. But I want to challenge Jacob a little bit, because most of the nonprofit developers and the owners that own affordable housing, he mentions the 15 to 20 year period, and I've yet to meet a developer that's actually flipped it over to market rate. And if there are some, I'd love to hear it. But most of the people,
I can tell you 3 or 4 right off the top of my
most
head.
of them.
Are there any of them in this room?
Yeah.
No.
Probably
Okay.
not. But most of the individuals I know that own affordable housing, they tend to refinance it and maintain it as affordable housing after the fact, because projects have operations and maintenance throughout the years, and once a building gets to 20 years, there's generally some repairs that need to be done. And instead of selling the property, they actually refinance the property and keep it affordable.
So it sounds like you're saying this is only, you don't think that this is maybe the full idea. So what is it then? What is it that does this affordable housing increase?
Well, we need to fund more affordable housing. And I think I'm the only one that's proposed putting out a municipal bond offering to actually generate more money, so that we can actually really, have the type of resources to either, one, incentivize private developers to include affordable housing in their projects, even when they don't have or they're not asking the city for something extra, but also working with our nonprofit developers to make sure that they have the resources, so that we partner with the state and other folks to make sure that the money is there actually to create the number of units. Because ultimately, we have a housing shortage crisis throughout, and most of the conversation is around affordable housing, because that's where the biggest crisis is. The one area that's been covered completely is high-end housing. I don't hear any complaints by anybody that we need to have more high-end housing. But what do we see happening throughout most of downtown and many parts of the city? It's high-end housing. So we need to reset what we're doing, and there are several things we can do, whether it's through rent stabilization, whether it's through actually disincentivizing outside investors to come in and buy large portfolio properties and then turn around and raise the rents from 800.
How do you disincentivize them? Just by telling them, like, oh, it's not that great here.
No,
you don't want to be here.
If only life was that simple, we would have solved our housing crisis a long time ago. I think we need to put in place certain types of rules and regulations that limit the rapidity on which they actually raise their rents. And that might require working at the state, because we have state laws that prohibit us from doing a lot of things.
Is this rent control? There's a lot of these terms, and then it sounds like there's other
Yeah.
terms to talk about them, and I'm just...
Yeah, I would say that most people's perception or conception of rent control is putting rent caps. And that's very different than stabilizing, limiting the amount of rent that a landlord could increase over a certain period of time. And that requires some work within the city to make that happen.
Okay, I saw Nikema Levy-Pounds grab a microphone, and I know... yeah, I'm sorry, you grabbed one too. I'll get there. I think she grabbed it first.
Sorry, Tom. Ladies first. No, actually, Tom did have the microphone.
Oh,
first
I
for a while.
apologize.
No, go ahead.
This is so polite. I love it. Good.
It hasn't always been this way.
Okay.
So, the answer is yes and.
Such a good
I think-
improviser.
Well, I think as a community, I think we are all struggling with trying to figure out how are we going to do this, because the city has limited resources, and even when you decide to prioritize affordable housing, there are limits to what the city can do. So Ray, when you say we'll just do a bond issue, I think that's great, but we may as well just do a tax levy, because you have to pay back. Bonds have to be paid back. So you may as well. So why not just save the fees and levy the taxes? I mean, that would be a more efficient way to do
Way
it.
around the fees, maybe
But-
we should investigate
but-
a municipal bank, and
Right.
then we pay
Well, that's
ourselves.
okay. But I'm just saying that's
Would you
that's
actually?
fine.
Do you actually think it's okay, or is that a Minnesota
Well-
like? Oh, that's fine.
Well-
Sure.
Well, the city hasn't proven to me that it's ready to get into the banking business, okay? So I would approach that with some trepidation, and I would need to see that the city actually has the capacity to do that. But, we have to also, in addition to all of the other tools that we're really looking for, trying to figure out, we have to also work with partners. We've got to make this a bigger deal for more people. We have to bring more people to the table, because we all know that this isn't a situation, it isn't a problem that we can simply solve within the geographic confines of the city of Minneapolis. We do have to work in a metropolitan way, because when we do that, we're going to bring more resources to the table. And I say, you all know about the development that went market rate in Richfield that had 700 units, and the hedge fund came in and purchased it and put in granite countertops and tile and threw some paint on the walls, and all of those affordable units went to market rate, and so many 700 families were scattered. And we need to deal with this on a metropolitan basis, because we're all affected when that happens.
I want to do a whole thing about the metropolitan area. I just want to push, though, one more time, because I feel like you've made some good points about some of the other things. I mean, is it just a matter of, quote unquote, working with the partners? Like, give us the specific to hold on to, or specifics.
Well, for example, it may be that we have a pooling of resources. Okay, so we're able to step in, as I think Ray was suggesting. You could have a requirement that when a large project like that is going to be, acquired, by a for-profit, that the municipality or some consortium of municipalities has the right to step in and purchase the property. So that would be one way that plays out.
Okay, and now, Nikema Levy-Pounds, yes.
Drum roll, please. After all that. All right. So I think, wonderful. I love it.
We
Thank
got to
you.
work on our snare drum.
That was fabulous. So I would say one of the things that's missing right now at City Hall is the political will to make the tough decisions and to make sure that we are holding developers accountable. Right now, it feels that they are allowed to do much of whatever they want to do, right? We have to be honest about that. We also have to look at all of the money that's poured into this race from developers and big business, and let us not be fooled about why the money is being poured into this race and what things could look like 4 years from now, depending upon who gets into office.
Can I just ask
Right.
give us a specific of something developers are doing now that we're letting happen that we shouldn't be?
Well, I learned about a program recently, and I talked to Mayor Hodges about this program, the Buy, Build, and Rehab program. And I had an African-American woman who lives in North Minneapolis approach me, and she said that there were 5 or 6 other women who had purchased these homes. They had received an initial loan letter saying they could qualify for $150,000, and developers had actually built these cookie cutter homes throughout the north side, and they priced the homes at $205,000. And so first of all, yes, the neighborhood cannot keep up with those prices. And so what they did, in order to close the gap between the $150,000 that some women qualified for and the $205,000, was the city helped them get these small loans, right? One woman had loans worth, she had 7 loans to make up the other $55,000. And some of the mothers were coming off of Section 8. So these were women who were trying to make sure that they had stable housing for their children. They got the promise of being able to purchase a brand new home on the north side. The realtor who helped them represented the buyer and the seller. And they were hoodwinked and bamboozled. You know, their homes now are probably worth $135,000. They have not built any equity over the last 10 or 11 years since they've owned these homes. And when I looked into the information that they submitted to me, it felt as though this was a developer-driven buy, build, and rehab program. Now, this was before Mayor Hodges' time. This was under Mayor Ryback that this program came to fruition. I've been told that it's been altered since that time, but it gave me a glimpse into how a developer can take advantage of poor people in our community, and how the city, instead of holding these people accountable, can rubber stamp their actions, because the city should have been protecting these women. That takes, first of all, understanding what's happening and the dynamics of being in poverty and wanting to be able to purchase a home, and making sure that we are putting policies in place that actually are much more protective of people, and letting developers know, yes, we want to work with you, but we're not going to have you building homes and overcharging people. One of the women has a home that's actually that needs a lot of repair, and it was a new home. So when you think about those issues, it definitely makes me feel as though the political will has not been there to level the playing field for the average person in the city of Minneapolis. So I love all of the ideas that all of us have put on the table surrounding affordable housing. I have a great platform as well. And I've talked about the importance of changing the zoning code, right? Because right now our zoning code is antiquated and outdated. That means that the city council is going to have to be on the same page with the mayor in order to change that code so that we can have different types of housing in our community. But I think one of the other important parts of it is making sure that we put power into the hands of the people. After I spoke about this yesterday on NPR, I had a woman named Jana Metke message me, and she gave me a laundry list of things that the community was able to do in working collaboratively with developers to initiate housing projects within their own communities. It's wonderful that they did that here, but the reality is that it is not a revolutionary idea. There are other parts of the country that have been doing this. They've been working out community benefits agreements within their neighborhoods so that the residents are able to benefit not just from affordable housing, but also encouraging those developers to put jobs programs in place so that people can be employed, et cetera.
So I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for this, but City Hall table, do you want to stand up for? Yeah, I mean, City Hall just kind of got thrown under the bus. What's been happening? Those are very serious charges. So I do want to give you a chance to respond to. I mean, some of the things Nikema Levy-Pounds just said.
Well, Dr. Levy-Pounds and I did meet about this because she raised it at a forum earlier this year. By the way, you all are part of our 34th Mayoral Forum this year. Hi, Uptake. And so when I heard that, I said, okay, and she asked, and I said, let's meet. And so we sat down, we looked at it. I talked with our housing director. There are some remedies that we can give women right away within the resources and the process that we have to help make up for the equity loss and such. We're going to have to look at what city ordinance says, and that's a conversation I'm having with Susan Siegel. So yes, there are things that we have not done well, and but I think that's true for the entire history of our country and this city. And I think all of us, in our own ways, have been speaking about wanting to make sure that the gaps that happen in the city that we want to close. the thing I have is that as mayor, and for 8 years before that as city council member, I've been working on closing those gaps, and as mayor, changing the entire DNA of the city, our enterprise, and how we are together as a community to shift, which is an uncomfortable thing to do. There's a lot of discomfort happening in the world, but we can get to this better other side together. And so when Andrea Brennan became the housing director, it wasn't just, I want an affordable housing plan, because we can't do what we've always been doing, or we will get what we've been getting. I want a housing plan. I want us to think strategically and big picture about housing in Minneapolis and what's actually going to move the dial for people. We changed the program that she was talking about. We've innovated how we fund housing and how we think about housing, and how we work with people and how we serve people. And that's, and from the inside out, and that's going to be needed. And that's why I propose a housing stability specialist to really tackle the issue of housing stability.
I want to bring up one, go ahead and grab the mic, because actually I want to bring up something that Councilmember Frye and you, Mr. Hoke, brought up before, and this question of where is affordable housing and how do we disperse it? So, and this is like a very, yes, good testing. I think that
I'm in theater.
Yeah, exactly. So we talk a lot, there should be more affordable housing. And then we sometimes get to the question of where. And that's actually a very contentious issue, not just in the sense of like the yes in my backyard versus no in my backyard, but there's actually a very different school of thought sometimes on should we be trying to put affordable housing everywhere throughout an entire city and throughout an entire region, or do we end up sort of concentrating it in certain areas or whatnot? I'm wondering where you all kind of fall on this debate. Should affordable housing be everywhere throughout Minneapolis, and should we be working harder to get our regional partners, all the Plymouths and the St. Paul's and the White Bear Lakes, to be building more affordable housing? Yeah.
Can I start on this one?
I guess, sure, yeah.
I asked. The reason I wanted to start is because one of the great things about working with President Obama and working with his HUD was that we worked with HUD. I brought together leaders from the entire region, all the willing partners, the council members, the mayors, legislators, Met council members from around the region to create something called the Prosperity Playbook to answer this question. How are we going to create housing options throughout the entire region? Because it can't just be Minneapolis.
And so the answer is yes, it should be everywhere then?
Yes, it should be everywhere.
So I think that I have lived through this because we worked on the Holman consent decree, and notions about choice and how choice gets exercised has changed over time. And we believed when we settled that case that really, choice meant moving to a particular location away from your neighborhood. That was really, that was the thinking at the time, and the notion was that if you were a low-income person and likely a person of color, if you lived next to a white person in a suburb, you were just going to be better off. That was really, I think, the thinking, and I think it was wrong thinking, but it was the thinking of the time. The idea really was that to enable individuals to exercise choice. That was really it, and then to be willing to embrace whatever that choice was, and to ensure that individuals had the tools to make a good choice. So, it's a very difficult issue, but one of the ways that I would assist in creating opportunities throughout our community is really to be much more intentional about building the units and attaching. The city council has done an effort to provide Section 8 housing, removing the barriers, to discrimination against Section 8 certificate users throughout the city. And I think that that's good and it's positive, but it didn't create more housing. And certainly what it means is that a certificate holder simply is required to go out and fight the fair housing battle on their own. If we were to project-base more of it, we could place it intentionally where we want it to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a delicate conversation. But then individuals can take advantage of the Section 8 assistance and not fight the battle on their own.
So does anybody up here disagree with the notion that affordable housing should be everywhere throughout the city, that we should be trying to push affordable housing in every corner and every section of the city?
No, I don't disagree with that,
Okay.
but I want to
you
add
just,
something.
You just want
I
to,
wanna
yeah,
add-
good. Take advantage
So-
of the silence. Yes, good.
Everyone is sort of philosophically for affordable housing until you start talking about putting it anywhere in the vicinity of where you live. And then suddenly there's massive amounts of pushback. Everybody's philosophically, not everybody, a lot of people are philosophically for increasing our residential population and density and maybe even upzoning until you start talking about doing it in the vicinity of where you live. And then there is massive amounts of pushback. Where do you not get the pushback? You don't get the pushback as much in communities that already have substantial amounts of poverty. And so the barriers to putting affordable housing in certain areas of the city, both financially, because the property is cheaper, and politically, because not as many people are upset, are far more limited. And so what we need to be doing is not just kind of talking about it, but then when push comes to shove, you got to be willing to stand up and say, yes, we're going to put affordable housing here. Yes, we're going to put housing at 30% of area median income in a middle and upper income neighborhood. It's tough, but I do 100% believe that it's the right thing to do. And I'm proud that in the ward that I represent, we have done that. We have done that. It's been tough. There are certainly people that aren't thrilled with it, but we've done it.
I think that there should be affordable housing throughout the city, but at the same time, it needs to be so that we are not trying to break up cultural enclaves, right? Because I see that as being racist. And the reason I see that as being racist is because you have certain groups that maybe share cultural identity, that share language, that share background, that want to have their own sense of community in a state that is 85% white, right? We can't fault people for wanting to have some safe place to call home, where their kids are walking down the street and they know the neighbors and they don't have to worry about the neighbors looking at them with suspicion and calling the police, because we know what could happen in a situation like that. So it's a both-and situation. And in order for us to get to that both-and place, we need to be engaging communities to find out what they want in their neighborhoods. So if we're talking about North Minneapolis, for example, what we hear from, at least for me, what I hear from a lot of African-American residents and other residents of color in North Minneapolis is many of them want to stay on the north side. They just want greater access to economic opportunity, and they want to feel safe. Yep. Safe from community violence and safe from police violence. Right? And so because of our communities having high concentrations of poverty, there's this push to say, well, if we bring more middle income, more white people in, it's going to decrease the poverty. It's going to, that's people's mentality, and it's based on a racially biased premise in the first place, because it never puts the responsibility on anyone to create greater access to economic activity, to economic opportunity, or to address the underlying issues of community violence and harm that people are concerned about. It's just spreading the issues around instead of actually addressing them, and I think that's unacceptable.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think we're all going to agree with that.
All right, great. I'm sorry.
But beyond that, when we talk about affordable housing, we talk about people that are NIMBYs and stuff, oftentimes these individuals, they have a preconception of what that is, but the reality is often different. In Jacob's ward, there's been an affordable housing project that was 3 blocks away from where the project was going up in Mills Quarter, right by the Carlisle. And it had been there for several years. And there was no controversy about it because it was designed well. It wasn't designed any differently than any other of the buildings in the Mills District. And that's what you can do by approaching affordable housing, that those individuals have just as much right to live in a dignified place, in a dignified way, that everyone else does. On 37th and Lindale, there was a huge pushback on a piece of property, this affordable housing, where Butter Bakery is. I don't know if any of you know where that is. But the neighborhood was outraged that they were going to put this in. But the developer, Portico, which is now Beacon, they actually worked, or maybe it's the other way around. Some of these businesses change. But in the end, they spent a lot of time working with the community, and now people in the community are so happy that that project's there. So I think that it's part of its political will, but I also think it's part of how we communicate with people in their neighborhoods, actually what it's going to mean to their lives.
I agree. I agree. I was just going to say that I think frequently this is not a what, but it's a how. Like, how do we do this? And I know from my experience of, citing individual public housing scattered site units in neighborhoods across the city, that it was frequently how we go about having that conversation, not just we're going to take this house and it's going to be there. And I do think that, Ray, you were just suggesting this, that, calling upon the faith community for their help in opening up opportunities for affordable housing throughout the city is a really good strategy, because I think it plays so well to the mission that many of these organizations have, and that you have a congregation of folks who are willing to get behind it and help make it happen.
Okay, I am a terrible timekeeper, and so at this point I want to ask you all to do a tremendous round of applause for all of these candidates, because we're going to trade spots with them. So we're going to get off the stage now. Yes, we're going to get off the stage. Are you still awake, cast? Good. So the candidates and I are going to get off the stage, and we're going to sit in this reserved row of seats right there. Or you can sit over there if you want. Yeah, sit in front of John right there in those reserved seats next to our friends from Faribault, Minnesota, who are here. Please, now what we're going to do is turn the stage over to the cast of the Theater of Public Policy. As promised, everything they do is entirely made up on the spot, based just on what we talked about. So this is all improv comedy. This is all made up. So please, a big round of applause for the Theater of Public Policy.
I know what's better for you. But you would have found out anyway. You would have found out. Look at this backsplash. It is ridiculous.
I know, we can't afford this. I walked into your home and I'm like, plated gold? That's real gold? What?
Well, it's what I have. You have cork.
I do
You have cork. Cork smells when it gets wet.
I know, it's not a sustainable material. It is from the forest, but it's not for a home material.
Well, and I guess the question is yours. Are you going to stay with me, or are you going to leave and try to find somebody who is perhaps more affordable?
If you put it that way, I guess the answer is clear. No one's going to make you change your ways, so I have to change my ways, which is to turn away from you.
You claimed your power, and I admire that, even though it's going to ruin me.
I have a question for you. Me and Frank are wondering, you're white, right? Yes, excellent. So me and Frank, as people white, we were just hoping that we could follow you around and see how you live and see if our lives become just a little bit easier.
I've heard how that works, so you just go about your daily business and we'll just tag along and enjoy the benefits.
Yeah. I have a question.
Okay.
When you drive, you just do it without worrying about if your car is too new or too old, or if you're going too fast or too slow.
I actually speed all the time.
What?
I should warn you though.
Wait a
You're gonna
minute.
be around.
I've heard about women that when a cop comes to give them a ticket, they'll flirt with them and the cop just gives them a warning. Has that happened?
I don't have to do that.
Frank, that was a very misogynist question.
Sweetheart,
What is it?
it's time that we write our political will. We've got a lot of things to pass down to our children, and I want to make sure we've laid it out.
Makes sense.
Straightforward, so there's no quibbling over the youngsters.
All right, sure.
I just think it's important.
Yeah, let me just start with the common language.
We
So,
the people.
before, we the people.
Yeah, that's
you
how we'll
and I.
start.
All right.
Yeah.
don't even sell those at Patina anymore.
But excuse me, I'm sorry, I couldn't help overhearing you, but let me introduce myself. I'm the disincentivizer. This is a very nice concoction there, but I must explain to you that if you plan to put that piece of pie where you want to, we will be pouring dirt on it.
Then why do it?
Well, interesting, because I did want to disincentivize your building, and after that, we might just invite other people to come taste the pie that you didn't invite.
I doubt that can happen. They are very stubborn.
Oh, I feel disincentivized. My spine is just sinking into my pelvis. And it hurts. I think it's my developmental scoliosis.
You know what? What you're feeling there is your conscience.
My conscience is in my crotch.
All right, let's see if they're home. I'll just ring the doorbell.
Yeah!
Hey, hi. Oh, hey, just come on in.
It's open.
What I was thinking is we would add a couple more units here, you know, to upzone the place.
Hi, hold up. Hi. Hi, I'm the homeowner. Hello.
Oh, listen, affordable housing's everywhere. We're going to upzone your house. We're going to add a couple more units here. It's not an Airbnb situation. These people are going to live here.
Honestly, I was just on the street trying to get a donut, and this man whisked me away.
He's young, he is hip, he's exciting, he's going to make this neighborhood just revitalized.
I mean, if you're looking for a roommate, I could use some help with the rent.
See,
No, it's not a roommate situation so much as they're going to be my tenant.
Hey, sir, I'm actually fine in the apartment that I'm at right now. It's a bunch of my friends, and we sort of depend on each other for things. So if you could stop pushing your product on me, that'd be like really great. And do you have any donuts? Because I wanted a donut for the past 3 hours, and this man has been sending me all across the frickin' city.
It's just half of a Hostess. It's the white powder, so it'll get all over your face. But
I need more. I need something more. All I wanted was a donut.
This is half of a Honeycrisp apple.
It's a Honeycrisp. That's the good one. Why is there only half of your
Because
apple?
I can only afford half of a Honeycrisp.
You can buy half Honeycrisp.
You can, but they're $1 million per apple.
Hey, we should fix that problem.
I mean-
This is a problem you should fix. Not weird housing problems where no one's asking you.
Guys, you're just frightening all the trick-or-treaters away.
Oh my goodness. Does anyone want half of
No,
that?
give me an apple!
Hi, Jenny. Thanks for being on top. I appreciate it.
Well, I just feel like it's important to get to know people, and me, Jenny the cop, relatable cop, whichever was. I even have a non-threatening name, Jenny.
Hey, Jenny, have a good day. Nice to see you.
Oh, Bill.
Everybody loves you, Jenny, but I'm Ted, the developer, and my wife left me. Well, we weren't married yet. And my conscience went into my crotch, and I lost so much fun.
Listen, if you keep talking, I might have to arrest you for sexual harassment.
That's why I'm getting down on my knees and to apologize. I mean, I like 2021. I mean, now that Donald Trump isn't president anymore, I can think about other things.
It does for you a
A lot of time. So I just want to say this, that I brought you something.
For me.
Yeah, because you've been such a good cop on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Sundays. I think it's weird that you only work 3 days, but maybe there's I used to work, but then
12-hour shifts.
well, okay, but that's still only anyway.
A grow your own economy plant.
Yeah, to grow your own economy plant.
I'm touched.
You could maybe water it with your tears.
I don't
Not on. Oh, there. So while they're making their way up here, I want to, there's actually people watching online, which is very exciting. And a couple of them have asked, why isn't Al Flowers here? And I just want to say, and we stated this early on, we invited Mr. Flowers to be part of this, and we reached out to his campaign, and we didn't hear anything back one way or the other. So I'm sorry about that. We tried. We wanted him to be here, but we never heard from him one way or the other. So with that, this is the part of the show where we are going to open it up for you all to ask questions of our candidates. But we like to give you a chance to practice. So if you would like to turn to the person next to you and ask them a question that you would actually like to ask of our guest, you'll have a chance to rehearse a little bit and make a friend. All right, ready, set, go. Ba-ba-da-da. Both Brandon and I have microphones that we will come towards you in a non-threatening manner. Just if you raise your hand, just because they've been acting a little weird, I think we'll hold on to the microphone. So just if you have a question, please raise your hand, and again, we will come towards you. So Brandon's side is winning. Not that it's a contest, but oh no, yes, good.
Should we direct it to someone?
It's up to you, I guess.
I guess I would ask Nakima this one. Okay, if you were to characterize the city budget right now like a piece of pie or a full pie, and if you could first characterize how the parts of the pie are designated, and then when you would become mayor, how would you change the makeup of that pie for how much is going to the different sections?
That's a good question. And what kind of a pie is it?
Well, I would say I didn't memorize the city budget, so I'm happy to pull it up and then answer your question. And anyone can pull up the city budget to see how the pie is distributed.
That's entirely fair but are there any places where you, just in the course of having talked to people running this campaign, you've seen like, this seems like it's way bigger than it should be and this is way smaller than it should be, without having to do the whole pie, just different pieces you want to slice?
Well, there is actually a pie chart of the city budget. I mean, there literally is, and people want to pull it up if you didn't know. So there is a pie chart. So, and I will pull it up. Well, I'll answer briefly and then I'll pull it up if you want me to answer later. Yeah. So I would say that one of my biggest concerns about the budget has to do with the amount that we spend on public safety and whether or not we have analyzed appropriately whether the resources are being spent in the way that maximizes public safety, or are we wasting money in some of those situations. So if you look at our public safety budget, we have, about $1.5 billion of our budget. That's the overall budget. Public safety is 11% of that budget, and it's 36% of the general fund portion of the budget, right? And so that is a lot of money, and we have seen an increase in the public safety budget, typically year after year. Saying that we need more officers, or saying we need, back after Jamar Clark was killed, Mayor Hodges and Blong Yang had proposed $600,000 to fortify the 4th precinct. So that is a lot of money being directed towards public safety, while we have all these other underlying issues, some of which actually contribute to public safety. And so I would want to see us, one of the things I'm proposing is comprehensive criminal justice reform, where we look at how we handle criminal justice from top to bottom, from policing to the laws and ordinances on the books, all the way to how we prosecute people and for what crimes.
So just to press that specifically, are you saying, Mayor Levy Pounds would actually decrease the public safety budget, or just give us some specific to kind of hold on to here?
Well, I think what I'm trying to say is we don't know whether the public safety budget should be increased or decreased if we have not analyzed the effectiveness of how we're using the resources. So let's say that, I hear people, some of my opponents saying, I would hire X number more officers. Well, how do you know that we need more officers? Especially if we have low-level offenses on the books, that officers who have bachelor's degrees are being used to stop people for petty offenses. So I give the example of, in 2015, I had my law students conduct research on all the low-level ordinances in the city of Minneapolis. And what we found was that there were several laws on the books that shouldn't be laws. One of them was a law against spitting that was put in place in the 1800s as a result of a tuberculosis scare. Now, you cannot transmit tuberculosis through spitting, but that law was still on the books, and it was being used as a pretext to stop, frisk, and harass young African-American men. So I look at police officers who have bachelor's degrees, right? And all the money that we spend on their salaries, on benefits and everything else, and the fact that 92% of them travel into the city, right? So how can we afford to spend that amount of money to stop someone for spitting? And it's also increasing tensions between police officers and young people of color. Similarly with the law against lurking, no one could tell you what lurking was. In most jurisdictions, it was unconstitutional, but in Minneapolis, it was still on the books. And so that's just the beginning in terms of making sure that there's a match between the money that we spend and whether we're getting the best bang for our buck. And we don't know that if we don't actually use data to get the information.
Does anybody up on stage right now have a strong opinion whether the public safety budget for the city of Minneapolis should be increased or decreased?
I have an opinion on it. So if I agree with Nikema that we needed to get rid of both the spitting and lurking laws.
We got rid of them.
We got rid of them. Yeah, I voted for it.
In 2015.
Yeah, I voted to get rid of them. Lurking, for instance, is a crime of intent. So the officer is forced to determine what is in the subjective mind of this person. Inevitably, when an officer is forced to do that, they're making discriminatory choices. I also agree with Nikema that we shouldn't have been spending $600,000 on the fortification. There were certain parts of it that I supported, but I did not support putting up a wall around it. But I also believe that we need, if we really want to do true community policing, I believe that we need to be giving officers the time to engage and interact. And right now, through large portions of the city, officers do not have the time to engage and interact. So I do support narrowing the beats of officers, giving them the ability to get to know the small local businesses, get to know the residents, get to know people who are regularly on the streets so that they can proactively keep people safe. I mean, the notion that we've got to choose on the one hand between safety and accountability on the other is ridiculous. These things are linked, they are dependent on one another. In order to have safety, we need people to trust the police, and right now they don't, and so they need to be accountable. And so I'm proposing specific things. I'm saying, we need to make sure that officers have to exhaust all reasonable alternatives before they resort to deadly force. I believe that we should have a rebuttable presumption of misconduct if the officer fails to turn on the body camera and then something bad happens. So in other words, a body camera policy or body cameras don't do any good unless we turn them on.
Does anybody disagree with any of those ideas?
Well, no. I mean, if you're talking about the police department budget and the public safety budget, that's something I've been working on certainly in the 4 years as mayor as I proposed the budget, which, Councilmember Fry thankfully has supported all 4 years. And I did put forth a plan to bring our authorized complement of officers up to 901 because we do need more officers to do community policing, and that is one of the things that is holding us back. I will say this year there have been 7 times more beats walked this year than there were at this point last year.
Wait, say that 17 times more beats.
7 times. In other words, officers are walking beats now. Every new officer in the police department is walking a beat for 6 months before they do anything else, so they can learn the job by interacting with people and not by driving around in a car. But when I appointed Chief Arredondo and I asked him what his priorities for the budget were, and I wanted him to have an impact on the budget because he's got a 17-month term and I didn't want him to wait 12 months. I asked him, he said, yes, it's important to have more officers for community policing, but my priority right now is to have community liaisons in our precincts. He said to have folks from the community who can work in community and work with the police department, can represent to the MPD what community concerns are, can represent to the community what the MPD is doing, as a way to build trust, as a way to lower tensions as opposed to increase tensions, and to provide service in difficult moments. And so that's what I propose for next year as the increase in the MPD budget.
So there's a couple, and I want to, you both should jump back in. I will just say we have a lot of questions, so I want to try and,
I'll be real brief. We can talk about community policing all we want until we actually begin to demilitarize our police and that presence of force that they have out in the community. I think we're not going to do anything. And in the end, I think that community policing is somewhat very undefined. There are some states and some jurisdictions that are doing a great job, and we should be talking about that. I think issues around training and de-escalation is probably the most critical thing that we can do. Most officers today are operating from a stature, how they've been trained, and that's to meet force with more force, which just escalates the situation. And that's why we have individuals get shot and killed by the police. So we need to not just retrain our officers, we need to demilitarize them so that the only option that they're not looking at is grabbing their gun and shooting somebody.
Program 1033 that I think Representative Dean is referring to, and that's the program that allows military weapons to be transferred to police departments. After Ferguson, President Obama rolled back the 1033 program under number 45. He's rolling it out again. Yeah. So that is something that we need to be concerned about with the Minneapolis Police Department. Number one, did we ever receive the transfer of military weapons?
No.
And making sure that we do not, under whomever is the next mayor, or depending on Mayor Hodges, that we do not participate in that program as a city.
And just to clarify, we got some scopes and we got some sleeping bags and we sent them back.
Okay, I want to, so there was
real quick, I
yes,
just want to say, so the pie chart.
Callback.
Is, you all know how I felt about what happened in that situation, right? So I'm not going to go there. Anyone who knows me understands why I responded in the way that I did. But if you want to see the pie chart of the actual budget, it is on page 7 of 37 of the city document that shows a synopsis of the much larger budget. And according to what Mayor Hodges has said in the past, she's talked about, from her perspective, that 80% of the budget is difficult to do anything with. So I don't know if you would like to elaborate on that so that people understand that that there's a limited amount of money that the next mayor can actually do something with. Now, if we look at the public safety budget as a fixed budget, that's one thing, but I would be looking to make sure that we are utilizing those resources effectively to see if we can carve out resources for some of the other things that we're talking about, if it's appropriate.
About 2/3 of the $1.5 billion are fixed things. Like if when you pay your, when you pay for water, the money we collect for that can only go to water uses. When you pay a parking ticket, that has to go into our parking fund and be used for specific things. So I think when people talk about the city budget and what we do with it, they're talking about the general fund, which is where property taxes, local government aid, and some grant funding goes. And that goes to the city departments and largely to public safety, police and fire, and to public works. It's the money we use to repave your streets, aside from the 20-year Parks and Streets investment plan.
Okay, I swear, now we're going back to questions. So did you have one immediately over there? Because I have like 5 hands now over here. All right, right here. Hello.
Speaking of money, after the Star Tribune made their endorsements, I noticed that the 2 people they top endorsed had made the most money. And I'm wondering where your money came from and who are you beholden to because of that?
Who wants to go first?
Well, I'm not beholden to anybody. And the money came from hundreds of individuals across the city. I didn't get a bunch of money from developers, and I loaned my campaign a bunch of my money.
I've gotten money from business owners. I've gotten money from residents. I've gotten money from activists, specifically in the area of affordable housing. I've gotten money from developers, as has, I believe, most every single other candidate up here. It's a pretty wide swath.
Okay, great.
I didn't get money from developers, so unless you know something I don't know.
It's not too late. There's a week left.
Well, I think developers know where
I'm waiting.
As far as accountability.
So, I actually want to touch on this, the topic of developers. I am a proponent of growth. I'm an unabashed proponent of growth. I do believe we need to grow the city. I believe in density. I believe that one of the tickets to affordable housing is this whole supply and demand issue that we're presently experiencing, which is that a whole lot of people presently want to live in our city. This is just the reality. People want to live in our city, which is great. But when you have the demand that is sky high and you don't have the supply to accommodate it, what happens is that the prices continue to go up. This is not an opinion. This is fact. You can't even argue with it. And so, yeah, one of the issues is that we do need to grow the city. And so, yes, I have money from developers, as every candidate up here, with the exception of Nikema, has taken as well. I'm very clearly for growth and density. I believe that it is a big part of our affordable housing crisis. I believe that it's a big part of figuring out a way to bolster the economy for everyone in our city when it's done right. And so, I just want to be clear, yes, you can just sort of blanketly say development bad. I don't believe that.
Okay, I had a hand right here, and then you'll get the next one? Okay.
I just have a quick question. What do you consider affordable housing, or what does that mean to you?
Well, there's, regional standards on how we determine what affordable, Jacob had earlier mentioned 50 to 60% of area median income, which I believe would allow you to live off a salary as an individual earning somewhere around 30 to 35,000. No, 40? 50 to 60% of it. I think it's right around 30. But anyways, so that means that you could probably afford somewhere around, $900 to $1,100 a month.
To press her point, though, is that you? Is that how you define it?
No, that's how the region defines it.
Yeah, the region generally speaking, not always, generally speaking, defines affordable housing as housing that is at 60% of the area median income and under. So you take 60% of whatever the area median income is, and then you determine the affordability from that. Usually it's 1/3 of whatever the take-home income is. So that's really confusing, and I get it. The point that I make when I give these bizarro numbers that I have no doubt that they're going to make fun of me for in the next segment,
make fun with
is that we need the more deeply affordable housing. We need that. I think that pretty much everybody up here agrees with that. The issue is that doing it is more expensive. Sometimes you get more pushback, but it's absolutely necessary. We need it now.
But also public housing plays a role.
Yes, it does.
That in some ways is a little bit different than what we're talking about, which is housing where public money is invested to actually create the housing. When we look at public housing, and I'm not going to profess that I know all about public housing.
I do.
I was about to say that Tom knows. He could probably break that down. But, as an architect, one of the things we always talked about is affordability. You have to put some numbers on it, because there's someone that can afford a $5 million house on Lake Minnetonka. So to them, it's affordable. But for someone that's living a low-wage job, that's completely unaffordable. So making sure that I'm not going to do anything to try to help someone have a $5 million house on Lake Minnetonka.
I'd hope not. That's not in the city. But
philosophically, let's just say.
Brandon, did you have one over there? Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Oops. Hey, so here's my question. We're over on the north side of Minneapolis. I'm a black man. Sell me on why I should vote for you and why I should care about what you're saying.
Okay. First, I ask for your first choice vote for mayor, and here's why. You know, there's a saying that's up in my office. Michael Nutter, the former mayor of Philadelphia, once said, "I didn't run for mayor to become caretaker of the status quo." That if we're actually going to make a difference in the lives of people of color in Minneapolis and African American people and African American men in the city of Minneapolis, we have to do things differently from the inside out, and we can't tinker around the edges. So the things that I have been doing have been transformative in the direction of making your life in Minneapolis better. That is policing. That is, we as a city have done more, invested more, faster. I as mayor have done more, invested more, faster than any other city in this country to put into place the foundations of a new 21st century police department, culminating in Chief Arredondo. And I could talk about the training that we're doing differently and the policies that we have that are different and the way we're teaching our managers to supervise people differently. All of that has changed. I can also talk about pathways, workforce, that because we have such big gaps in employment between people of color and white people, I've invested a lot of time and energy in making sure that we have pathways for young people and people who are currently seeking work or get better work. Through the Tech Hire program, through the Build Leaders program, changing how we think about workforce, but also meeting with the CEOs here in town, and then working with MnSCU to create curriculum, and then working with the Minneapolis public schools to create curriculum in the public schools so that people will be ready for the jobs of the future. Minneapolis people will be ready for the jobs of the future. But all of that comes down to, and Tane's giving me the little marker here so we can keep talking, all of that comes down to we need leadership that can move everybody toward one Minneapolis, and one Minneapolis is people of color at the heart of building our community and building our future. And I ask for your first choice vote.
Well, I'm asking for your first choice vote for mayor because long before I decided to run for office, I saw many of the challenges that we're up here talking about right now. Years ago, while I was a law professor at St. Thomas, when I started looking at the data and the statistics and the research and going out into the community and seeing the problems, I thought that many of the problems could actually be solved and addressed. Number one, if government stakeholders would actually listen to reason and to listen to what the people had to say. And number two, if the political will was present. So I had the experience of going to the legislature, helping to draft bills and testifying and advocating in often racially hostile environments for what was in the best interest of people of color and those on the margins. And I went to Hennepin County and Ramsey County and advocated for young people being brought into the juvenile justice system and experiencing those harms, a lot of them who experienced mental health issues at the same time, and said that we can do this a better way. And then I went to St. Paul City Hall and met with the mayor about policy changes that needs to be put in place to increase economic opportunity for residents of color in St. Paul, as well as to rein in the St. Paul Police Department, which is seen as the deadliest police force in the state of Minnesota. And then ultimately to Minneapolis City Hall, where I got to the point where I decided that enough was enough. Bringing the concerns of communities of color forward to say, the Minneapolis Police Department is being abusive towards residents. You all see the evidence. You see the videos on YouTube. You've read the stories in the Star Tribune. But worse, you've settled tens of millions of dollars in excessive force lawsuits and have failed to hold those officers accountable for abuse. And if you don't rein them in, and if you don't address the economic injustices that are happening on the north side, we're going to become the next Ferguson. That was 6 months before Jamar Clark was killed. And that was around the time that I worked with my law students to push for the repeal of lurking and spitting ordinances, because I said we have to do something to alleviate the pressure upon communities of color so that we don't have an explosion. So I will be a mayor who not only looks at the evidence and goes and talks to the people, but who has the political will to take action even when it's unpopular, to deal with race even when people don't want to hear it or they're hostile about it, because I know that people's lives will be impacted if we don't address these issues. We need to move from being at the bottom in terms of disparities to being at the top in terms of equity, and no longer allow it to just be a buzzword that we all sit back and feel comfortable saying, but won't actually do the work that it takes to move us forward. That's why I want your first choice vote.
I want to Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah,
does
yeah,
deserve an applause. Whether
deserves
people,
applause, sorry.
people don't, but I got to deal with this because people don't want to hear this. The Star Tribune does not want to acknowledge that we have a racial equity problem. There are too many people comfortable with what is going on, and we need to wake up and realize that people's lives are being impacted by our inaction and our failure to deal with the issues. And I'm unapologetic about saying that.
I was only calling because we've only really gotten about 3 questions, and I want to try and get if there's another one, and particularly if any policy thing we haven't talked about. Oh no, and so yeah, okay, we can do that. We can do everybody can do the pitch. Yeah, sure, okay.
I'll try to be real brief, and part of my answer is going to be not the reason why you should vote for me as your first choice, and then hopefully I will tell you why I believe you should vote for me your first choice. So I grew up in poverty. I ended up developing an addiction. I served some time. I got out. I received a pardon from the state of Minnesota. That's not why you should vote for me. But what happened as a result of that is I began to understand the system that had granted me privilege because of the color of my skin and who I am. And since I moved to the north side on 2000, in the year 2000, I've been here now 17 years, and I've dedicated my life to try to change things. I fought to keep North High open when the Minneapolis public schools wanted to close it. And it's doing great now, 90% graduation rate last year. In 2011, I worked with the design community to organize individuals to provide pro bono service to the individuals whose homes were hit by that tornado, so that they could have services and at no cost to them to actually help rebuild their homes. And in 2012, I was elected to represent the people of this community in St. Paul. And I've worked around several things, but one of the most proud moments of my life was actually being able to see Ban the Box passed at the state of Minnesota. So that now when an individual with a criminal record applies for a job, they're not supposed to be asked that question. We know there are still some employers that are doing it. So that they actually get an opportunity to actually explain what they may have done at some point in their life. And I guarantee you, if I asked everybody in this room, if you ever did anything between the age of 15 and 25, if you got caught, you'd have a criminal record, probably all of you would stand up. So those are the things that I've been dedicating my life to fight for. I care a lot about this community. I'd love to have your first choice vote along with everyone else, and we're all not going to get your first choice vote, so I'd be happy to have your second choice vote.
I'd hope not. That would be fraud. All right, we're doing everybody. Oh, yeah.
So thank you. So the reason you should vote for me is the reason I'd like everyone in this city to vote for me and to be their first place vote. And that is because I have a record of being a problem solver. I have done that my whole life. I'm able to create a vision and enroll people in our community in that vision and move them to action. When I went to the city's public housing authority and the federal government was threatening to take it over, I enrolled people in fixing that problem. We all worked together to create a public housing authority that became nationally known as a high-performing housing authority. That's what I did. When our historic theaters were threatened with being torn down, I enrolled people in a vision around saving them and creating a vital theater district in our downtown. I enrolled lots of people, we worked together, and we solved the problem. That's the kind of mayor I'll be. When it comes to creating public safety throughout our city, it isn't just the north side, it is throughout the city. We need to ensure that everywhere you walk, everywhere you live, you have a safe neighborhood. Everywhere you are, no matter who you are, the police officers treat you with a high degree of respect, and that you have the feeling that police officers leave you with the feeling of confidence. That's the kind of mayor I'll be. Citywide, it fits for everyone. Everyone has a good paying job. We have an inclusive economy. Everyone has opportunity. Because when I think about the role of mayor, the job is really to make sure that every door in this community is open, and the only thing that holds anyone back is themselves.
Councilmember Jacob Fry.
So before I was on the city council, I was a civil rights attorney. I represented an individual on death row who is the exact same age as I am, graduated high school the same year, but had a dramatically different life experience because he was black and because he was living in Dothan, Alabama. And he was on death row because of those reasons. There is no doubt in my mind. I practiced employment discrimination law. I represented people who were fired from their job because they were black or old or gay or a woman or disabled. Represented people in housing discrimination cases for the same reasons. But I'm not telling you to vote for me because of my resume. There were lessons that I learned through that work. And among the foremost of them was recognizing my own white privilege, and specifically recognizing that there were many instances when I was not the right person to deliver the message, when I was not the right person to be front and center. I did work on the north side following the tornado, and I worked with people that had signed, entered these really unfair agreements. They're called rent-to-own agreements or contract for deed agreements, and I was trying to figure out how to stop this from happening in the future, and I was getting nowhere until I started working with other people of color who had a whole lot of experience within the neighborhood, and that's when the success started. So I'm not telling you to vote for me because of my experience or resume. I'm asking for your first choice vote because I do think that I can recognize when I'm not the right one to do the job.
So I have a question. Yeah, well, John, you can figure out for all of us later. Do any of you, we have early voting. Has anybody voted already? No? Do you all do like you all procrastinate until like the day of? What, you're busy?
We'll probably all be voting on the 7th. If anyone procrastinates to the 8th, your vote won't be.
Okay, well, I was trying to, I know you were all part of a forum yesterday, and you were all asked, who's your second choice vote? And none of you answered, basically. So who's your second choice vote? I'm going to try again politely, and then I'll be less polite.
Here's what I said, and I'm just going to say it again, Tane. This is, since this is our, what is this, our 34th forum, and I did 36 in 2013. This is my 70th mayoral forum, and I've never answered that question. But there are a lot of people who on the campaign trail I have appreciated what they've brought to the table. Al Flowers, who isn't here, has really made sure that issues of the North Side and people of color and violence are discussed here at these tables. I appreciate the conversation that Nakima Levy-Pounds has brought to the table about equity in general and the issues around housing and thinking about that in specific. And Ray Dean, his work there, you know, we share some life history aspects too that I appreciate that we've been able to raise around addiction.
But you only
and
get
sobriety.
2 extra votes. So.
I know, but I'm just saying these are folks who I appreciate what they've been able to do and bring to the conversation.
Come on, you all. So,
The question yesterday wasn't who would your second choice vote be. It was actually, I believe, who would you recommend?
That's correct. So those are different. That's fair.
they are
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah. So who's your second choice?
But I will tell you this. Let me tell you this. My second choice vote is sitting at one of these 2 tables.
So I mean, maybe this is unfair, but I don't know. Is that?
Al's going to call you tonight, and he won't be happy, man, just so you know.
I mean, there's we would all appreciate knowing, right? Like to some degree, how, because it helps us know something about what you value. You know, that you know, there's. I think that it's fair to say I don't think anybody up here would disagree if put on sodium pentothal, which I didn't put in your LaCroix.
Well, I'm not going to answer the question, either, but I do want to say, but I do want to say this. You know, we've at this point been through how many? 35, 34 forums with each other, and I mean I've spent more time with Mayor Hodges and Representative Ray Dean than I have probably my wife in the last several months, and it's that.
I don't know if that's who's that
will.
a knock
Read
against. I don't understand.
Yeah. I didn't mean to leave Tom and Nakima out. Yeah, we've spent the same amount of time together. Well, but here's the point. It's a really cool thing that we live in a city where people are open-minded and inclusive And the vast majority of these issues we're actually in a full agreement on, certainly with respect to the goal. And while there are certainly policy differences, I can tell you that we really have some good people up here. And so I think we should all collectively kind of be proud of that.
Fine. On that note, why don't we just do a big round of applause for these 5 candidates for joining us up on stage. A big round of applause. So now, though, we're going to get off stage one more time, and we're one more time going to turn the stage over to the cast of the Theater of Public Policy. Don't all race for the exits at once, because just like before, everything they do is entirely unscripted. So one last time, please, a round of applause for the Theater of Public Policy.
I want to be your second choice. Oh!
it's a very important decision. Each slice represents something different about your future together.
Adventure.
An adventure indeed.
I want the general budget because everything else is just fixed. General budget, I can have a la mode.
Whoa! Yeah. You think you just have free reign over the general one, but this is Minnesota. Watch me slice it in half, and then half again, half again, half again. Which one of these 8 slices of the general budget are you going to fixate on?
Man, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, I had to quit my lurking stance, and I'm going to take the one that's...
I didn't mean to ask. What exactly is lurking?
See, I'm not quite sure exactly. I hang out a lot, and
Is that it?
I wait, and I sometimes just stand.
Is that different than loitering?
Oh, most definitely. Loitering.
Mhm.
Loitering is certainly when you're standing with poise and attracting.
Is he leering right now?
He's praying.
He's
with an E.
praying.
Yeah.
Praying with an E.
Yeah.
So none of those things are lurking. Who the frick came up with that word?
Minneapolis?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Bozeman. I keep hearing all these rumors that you have like a lot of leadership skills and you're gonna be a big deal, and I just kind of want you to help me out.
Actually, I'm really glad you found me because I have a big announcement.
Oh, please. I just have mountain ranges, so it can echo off me really well.
I, the city of Minneapolis, am running for president.
Oh, wow. I can't believe you told the city of Bozeman, Montana that first. I've never felt so important.
Let me tell you some of my buzzwords.
Please.
Equality.
Okay.
Women.
Yep.
Housing.
Mountains.
Lakes.
I don't know about those.
Transit.
Cool.
Do I have to vote?
Well, I'm not sure if cities can vote yet. Most people think I'm the capital, but that's Helena.
City of Minneapolis? Hello, I am a black man. Can you tell me how you'll support me based off of your assumptions of things I need?
Actually, I'm very excited to be the new community liaison officer. I would like to introduce you to a private home owner, and I think you guys will really hit it off.
That's great.
Private homeowner, Minneapolis police officer.
Hi.
Please.
Yeah, we got segues to the beach. So
That's my Coast Guard, and I planted that.
yeah, right. Okay, that's fine.
I think it's really, really important that he understands about some of your hobbies because we're getting to know each other.
Gardening, as you can see by my well-tended yard, is important.
You realize that the city owns the boulevard part.
Yes,
diversity. What I decided for this Halloween is instead of just giving out those little white candies that we do, what do they call you popular in restaurants, Altoids. Instead of giving out just Altoids, I'm going to put one Hershey bar in there. And then all the kids will want to come to our house.
I have some questions about why you're giving people unwrapped Altoids. But it's a great idea. That makes
you reach in and you're like, ooh, it's like mostly Altoids, but a little smear of chocolate. What more could you want? It's like you have all of the candy with that one smear of chocolate.
I get it. It's a metaphor. People are thinking of diversity while they're eating candy and going, oh my God.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with this metaphor. There is no candy in my bowl, see? Nothing at all. I don't know why you're waiting with anticipation. I told you there was
Because
no
I wanted some.
You wanted some candy? You need candy when you do better with your policies! In our house.
This is getting really harsh.
It is getting really harsh. We've been married for 10 years and I've just been holding this in. I want to have a potluck. And I want to have more than lutefisk and freaking jello salad. I want to have a tamale every once in a while. I want to have a mother freaking gumbo.
I'm thinking about going with my second choice rather than my first.
It's 2025. Yeah, it is. And Jenny the cop's gone on to bigger and better.
Empty benches. Alone with an empty bench, in fact. I actually found it weird that she spent so much time on that bench.
What if I told you she was me? What?
You're back on the bench. It makes perfect sense.
I don't need the bench anymore. And the bench doesn't need me.
You're holding onto it really tightly. Thank you.
Listen,
I'm here.
I've transitioned. I've transcended. I'm not even a cop anymore. I'm just a citizen.
You quit your job.
I didn't quit so much as I was absorbed.
So you got a new job in a different department. You got a new job?
Something to think about then.
Please, Jenny. I agree. Sing it, Jenny.
Use the chair! I dream of Minneapolis and what it's gonna be, what it's gonna be. I see a city that doesn't need officers, no. It doesn't need me.
It doesn't need me.
And it's fine. Jenny's fine. Jenny is so relatable. If Jenny were a person, which she is, but this case is not, she might even be relatable. Jenny the cop is going on. Gotta find a second choice. Jenny the cop is going on. Gonna give the people back their voice. Goodbye, Jenny, make my world. Make my bench. Goodbye, Minneapolis. Saw this city is looking pretty, so I'm gonna go on to St. Paul. I hear it in
Welcome to St. Paul.
Thank you, Bench.
Welcome to St. Paul.
I gotta figure out which one's the cathedral, which one's the state capitol.
Welcome to St. Paul. It's 9 p.m. We're all shutting down.
Hey, do me a favor. One of you hold this. Just play. So, okay, that's okay. So, thank you all so much for being here. You all are absolutely fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. Thank you to everybody who watched. I want to do a tremendous thanks to the folks here at the Capri Theater who hosted us and made this whole thing work really well. Big round of applause. And thanks so much to the Uptake for live streaming this whole thing. They made this visible to many more people. So I just have to do one quick announcement, which is that if you enjoyed this and you thought, oh, I just want to see an improv mayoral forum, but I actually live in St. Paul, we are doing another one actually in St. Paul on Friday with the St. Paul mayoral candidates. Or if you have a friend in St. Paul, send them a telegram or something so that they know on Friday you can see this at the North Garden Theater on West 7th Friday night. Other than that, I want to thank all of our candidates for being here tonight. So please, a tremendous round of applause. I am sure, after having campaigned for almost a whole year, probably many of them at this point, they would love to spend another couple hours with you tonight. So please bring your many detailed questions about the budget to them right now. Other than that, we're the Theater of Public Policy. Oh, I have to do that. I have to do this. One last thing, which is that, so tonight's event was entirely free, and we are completely covering it. However, if you are of the generous spirit and you wanted to help cover some of the costs for us to pay the Capri Theater for having their staff here, to pay the Uptake for doing what they do, and paying our very talented improvisers for their time on stage, we have this glass jar that we will have at the back that you can very softly and quietly put something into, or very loudly if you want, but we would very much appreciate that. Other than that, I will say we're the Theater of the Public Policy. We're on the Facebook and the Twitter, and we were
Jim Robinson, Vince O'Mullin, Sammy Haley, Brandon Booth, Kevin Meyer, Red Jay,
most Dennis Curley on the piano. All right, thank you all so much. Go vote either today or in the next 7 days. All right, see you all soon. Good night.